Have you been going to the gym consistently trying to grow your glutes, but months go by, weeks go by, and you're noticing that your quads are getting bigger, your quads are seeing progress, but you're not seeing progress in your glutes, and that's your main goal for the gym. The reason for that is because likely you have a good program on paper, so you have all the right exercises in your program when you look at it on paper, but you don't have proper execution. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of crossover between the exercises that can be used to grow your glutes and grow your quads. So with that being said, you have to do them in a specific way to engage the muscle that you're looking to grow. And this is a common thing that happens with a lot of ladies because a lot of us want to grow our glutes, and we have squats and lunges and hip thrusts and step-ups in the program, but if you're not doing them with the bias of the specific muscles you're wanting to grow, you're not going to see the results. And that's why a lot of times you follow a program for anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks and you still aren't seeing the progress you want, or you are seeing progress and it's not in the places that you want. So today in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to make these specific exercises glute focused so that you can actually apply this to your program and start seeing results that you are actually intending to achieve. So some background information about glute versus quad exercises. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of crossover between the exercises that are used for quad development and glute development. For example, if you take a program that is designed to grow your quads and you take a program that's designed to grow your glutes, you will notice that both programs have squats, step-ups, lunges in the program. And then the glute program is likely going to have a lot more hinge movements, which is hip thrusts and RDLs. Both are going to have squats and lunges though. The difference is going to be in how you execute them. So for example, if you squat and your knees are going over your toes like this, like a sissy squat, that's going to target your quads a little more. But if you squat with a wider stance, like a sumo squat, you're going to get access to your hips, and your glutes are a hip dominant muscle. So the more you engage your hips, the more you can get your glutes involved. So this type of squat is going to be a lot different in terms of muscle engagement than this type of squat. So depending on our body structure and just how we move in our day-to-day, we may or may not squat a certain way, right? So me personally, I have shitty ankle mobility, so I typically don't squat like this. I would not be squatting like this unless I have like a heel lift or it's properly programmed, well, put in my program for a specific reason, and then I'll do it. An example is if I'm looking to hit my quads. But based on my body structure, I typically squat with a wider stance, and that's going to make my squat a little bit more glute dominant. If you're somebody who is barbell squatting and you have the bar lower on your shoulder blades and you lower down into that position, you're going to get more glute engagement. So those specific details make a big difference. Now we talk about leg press. Leg press is another exercise that you'll see in both quad programs and glute programs. And this is technically a squat pattern, so this falls under the category of squats, because when you think about what you're doing on a leg press, you're literally in an anti-gravity position, so a position where you're laying down and you're literally squatting, just not standing. So it's technically a squat, you just have less force going through your knees depending on how much weight you use, so it is a squat motion, that's why I listed it here. But with leg press, if you have a wider stance on the platform, you're going to get more glute engagement. If you have a more narrow stance, you're going to get more quad engagement. And the reason for that is, and you're going to leg press, think about this when you leg press. When you have a wider stance and your feet are higher up, that's going to allow your knees to stay behind your toes. But if you have a narrow stance and you walk your feet down the platform a little bit, that's naturally going to put your knees over your toes and increase how much knee bending you get, and that's going to improve how much, that's going to influence how much quad engagement you get. So those are a couple examples when it comes to squats and leg press, but let's get into the ones that I think people sometimes mess up a lot more than others. So squats and lunges, split squats, step ups, and lunges. So some key things that you need to remember when you are squatting, split squatting, lunging, and doing step ups is that if you want to target your glutes, you want to think about three things. You want to think about your stride length or step length. So depending on what you're trying to target, you want to have your feet a certain width, right? So if you're doing a split squat, you're talking about your step length, right? So having a wider step length is going to allow you to sit down into it and keep your ankle over your toe. Ankle over toe is the second thing you need to think about. So step length, knee over ankle, and then you want to think about your hip angle or torso angle. If you're going to be targeting your glutes, you want more of a forward trunk lean, and what that does is put stretch on your glute, right? That looks a lot different than if I was to do a quad dominant split squat when you have a shorter step, which naturally influences the knee over toe position as I lower down, and then you want to have more of a upright torso angle. So three things you need to think about: step length, position of your knee over your toe or your ankle, and then your torso angle. So repeat that again. Glute dominant is wider step length. Once you're in a wider step length, when you go down, your knee is going to be behind your toes, more so over your ankles, and you're going to have a forward trunk lean. That's glute dominant. If you have these exercises in your program and all you are seeing is quad growth, you're likely doing it with the shorter step length and doing knee over toe. That's going to engage your quad more than your glute, and that's going to explain why you are seeing more growth in your quad instead of your glute. So these small nuances is exactly what needs to be considered in order to have an effective program for your specific goals. Next, Bulgarian split squats. So Bulgarian split squats is just a rear foot elevated split squat, and it's a progression of the stationary split squat when both feet are on the floor. The rear foot is not elevated. So let's talk about how to make that one glute dominant. So what you're gonna do is put your one foot elevated behind you, and then you're just gonna lower down. So this is a quad dominant split squat. I'll show you guys what this is. This is a quad dominant split squat. My knee is going over my toe. I have a lot of knee bending, knee flexion, right? In this case, yes, I have a forward trunk angle, which is going to engage my glute a little bit, but if I wanted to keep this quad, like all quad, I'd come upright and then keep my knee over my toe, right? But if you are somebody who wants to grow your glutes, you cannot do all your split squats like that. So you have to widen your step, and then see how this changes everything. As soon as I go down, my knee is no longer over my toe, my knee is over my ankle. Now I can keep getting forward trunk lean and then come up that way. That's more glute dominant. I want to make it even more glute dominant, step out further and come down. That is the difference between doing something quad dominant versus glute dominant. It does not seem like a big deal, but when you want a specific result, you have to do things a specific way. And this is what keeps people from either achieving their goals or not achieving their goals. Step ups. Step ups is another one that should be in every lower body program, but the way you do is going to depend on what you're trying to hit. So let's get into that one. All right. This is a small box. This is 12 inches. So when we go up the step, nobody in daily life, nobody is thinking about if our knee is over our toe, we're not thinking about our foot position, right? We're just going up the steps, right? Going up the step regularly. But when you're in the gym, you have a specific goal. You can't just mindlessly do shit, right? We have to be very cognizant of our body position if we're trying to hit specific things. So, same concept applies. You just remember knee over toe, that's gonna get your quad. But if you do not want to get your quad as much as your glute, you can't do knee over toe, right? So what you do is, one, try to keep a more upright position instead of translating your weight forward and push through your heel and come up that way. That's gonna be more glute dominant. A better way to do that is just get a taller box if you can tolerate it, right? Because when you get a taller box, it's easier for you to push through your heel, and it's easier for you to lean forward without getting your knee completely over your toe. So in this position, I can just step up and make that a lot more glute dominant than a smaller step. So high box step ups is something you'll primarily see in glute programs instead of lower step ups, because naturally you're not gonna get a deep knee over your toe position. And then you're gonna start in this close hip angle, which is similar to what I described when you're here, right? It's all body mechanics. So as I step up, I can push through my heel and use my glute, and then when I step down, I can really sit into my glute and step down. If you're somebody who's like, I don't really care to grow my butt, I wanna target my quads, then what you'll do is get a slightly shorter step, get your foot to the edge of the box, lean your body forward, and then step up. You're leaning your body forward in order to get your knee over your toe, and then step up, and that's gonna be your quad. Both of those exercises that I just showed will be in any type of lower body program, but the way you do it is gonna influence what muscles are being targeted. With that being said, something to think about is you're not shutting off certain muscles when you're doing these exercises, right? So a lot of people say, I don't wanna grow my quads, I just wanna grow my glutes. The only way you're not gonna have any quad development with any of these exercises is if you don't do squats, lunges, step-ups, right? Because your quad is always firing when you go to straighten your knee, right? It's always gonna fire. But we can change how much is working by putting ourselves in specific positions. So you can never completely eliminate your quads from, or prevent your quads from growing, but you can limit how much they do grow by using these specific techniques. Next thing I want to talk about is a lunge. So there's different lunge variations. The one variation that I am talking about specifically right now is a walking lunge. Everybody loves walking lunges, right? I hate walking lunges. I hate doing legs, but I do. Walking lunges can be used for quad development and glute development, right? So what you're gonna do in order to engage your glutes is take a wider step, take a longer step. So when I do that, my body is naturally just gonna keep my knee over my ankle, right? I'm gonna be able to sit into my hip a lot, then I can come up. As opposed to if I take a shorter step and go down, I'm naturally getting my knee over my toe, and then I come up. So walking lunges are good for both quad development and glute development, but if you want to target your glutes, take a wider step, have a forward trunk lean, push through your heel, come up. If you want to target your quads, shorter step, knee over toe. These slight differences make a huge difference in your ability to see specific results. So if you're somebody who is looking for specific results, whether it's growing your quads or growing your glutes, this is what you need to pay attention to. I will put a little cheat sheet below for each exercise for foot positioning. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments and I will answer them once I hop off. Peace.